I get plenty of calls from people wanting to put their property or their parents' property into what they call an asset protection trust. And when they mention those words, I know they've either seen something on social media promising them that they'll save thousands of pounds in inheritance tax or avoiding care fees, or some dodgy character's been round their house making promises that sound too good to be true. I'm Nino Cafaro, I'm a solicitor, and I'm going to bust the myth on some of these trusts so that you don't get caught out. Now, nobody wants to sell a property they've inherited to pay the tax around 40% or anywhere up to £60,000 a year in care fees. Someone tells you that you can ring fence the property, so avoiding inheritance tax, or by putting that property into a trust, the local authority will pay for the cost of care instead. And you shell out anywhere between £5,000 and £10,000 in fees, and hey presto, your property is protected. Or is it? Now, often these trusts are really just lifetime trusts that have been missold. Now, a lifetime trust is great if it's sold properly and you get the right legal advice, and they're a good way of transferring an asset out of your estate for the benefit of someone else. Used properly, the trust can pay an income to the surviving spouse, for example, for the remainder of their lives. And then when the trust is transferred to their beneficiaries when they die, in most cases that's the children, they benefit from that. But these trusts were never designed to deprive local authorities of an asset so that you can fund your care at the expense of the taxpayer. And be really careful when someone offers you this type of service. They're usually not regulated individuals like solicitors are, for example, and the fees are usually extortionate. And when you end up with a problem, they're not going to be there to help you. And I often see people doing this when their parents are already receiving care. And the harsh reality is, if you're transferring the property into a trust like this to avoid care fees, you might get caught up in what's called deliberate deprivation. And if you are, it can be reversed. So you'll end up paying all that money just for nothing. Now, on top of that, if you continue to live in the property after it's been transferred into a trust, you're still deriving a benefit from it, i.e. you're still living there. So in order for your estate not to pay inheritance tax, you'll have to pay the full market rent to the trust for the rest of your life just to live there. Plus, something that these snake oil salespeople often leave out, if the property is worth more than your nil rate band, and today that's £325,000, that's the amount we can leave to our beneficiaries inheritance tax free, you'll have to pay a 20% charge on anything above that £325,000 for putting the property into the trust whilst you're still alive. So on a £500,000 property, that's a charge of £35,000. That's a tax. Now stay with me. If you just left the property to your children when you die, your £325,000 tax-free limit increases to £500,000. And you don't get that extra uplift if you put the property into a trust. So you've just paid £35,000 tax charge to put the property into a trust. You've lost the additional tax-free limit by not leaving the property to your children. On a £500,000 property, that's a tax saving of £70,000. And then what if your children want to sell the property when you die? They've got an exit charge to take the property out of the trust. And on top of that, they've got the legal fees that come with that. Look, without proper advice, the only assets these trusts are protecting are those of the people who sold them to you. So what can you do to protect an asset? Well, look, it takes careful planning. Sometimes it can take a number of years. But the important thing is that you get the right legal advice from someone who advises in this area of law. So if you found that useful, hit the thumbs up. If you want to talk legal with Nino, just hit the subscribe button.